Howdy, y'all. I am back with another discussion. We're going to discuss a story this evening, and I don't want to spill my coffee. I've decided to go ahead and do the discussions on the stories that I've already read on video, and then when I get caught up, I'll do a story and then do the discussion on it, so they'll be back to back. So I got like 10, I think, so I'm going to do one this evening, then I'll do another one, and we'll try and get these caught up so we can discuss the story right after I read the story. But for now, we're going to play a little catch up. And the first one is going to be a discussion on the Bremen town musicians. Now, all of these stories that I'm discussing are in my Storytime playlist if you'd like to go and view them before we discuss it, so you'll know what we're talking about. And I was doing a little brief discussion afterwards after I read the stories, but I'm going to change that after I get this caught up. We're just going to have the stories and the discussions as two separate things, so you can enjoy the story or you can participate in a discussion about the story, or both. So as always, this is not children's fairy tales. This is a discussion of folklore, and I wouldn't recommend it for children. I have a disclaimer on this playlist, this Storytime playlist on my channel. If you'd like to view that, I'll kind of briefly explain why I don't recommend these stories for children. So, the Bremen Town Musicians, it has a line drawing. It's pretty short stories, classic. I read this in literature in high school, and I have a few thoughts on it. So, in this story, each main character of the story has come to the end of his usefulness and is going to be killed. Okay, I believe this really does have something to say about how people at this time when this story was created, because I believe they were orally passed down for quite some time before they were collected as written stories. But I believe that during the time that this was created, there were many people who were servants, and they worked their entire lives, and then when they became old, they weren't taken care of by their masters or the people that they served or worked for. And I think this is a tale that specifically addresses this fear. And I don't want to say praise on it, but fairy tales really like to push your buttons. So I think this is pushing that I give you my whole life and now no one takes care of me when I'm old kind of button. So first the ass, then the hound, then the cat, then the cock. They all join forces, but it's really the ass begins everything. He overhears his master saying some things. It's implied that they're going to get rid of him because he's weak and he can't do his job anymore. So each of these animals, fearing death, decide at the ass's suggestion, he begins and encounters each one on his journey. They decide to become town musicians in a town called Bremen. All of the animals assume that they will be good at this job, of course with the ass's encouragement, saying, oh, you would sound good, all of us together you would be very good together. And they're all assuming that they'll be good at the job and they'll be able to make a living at that profession. So this is another one of those times where things just they're just happening, like talking animals and stuff like that, and it's just not even addressed. So they don't want to be killed by their masters, which again speaks to the attitude of servants and their masters, and an initial fear of this. And so they're all together and they're all going to go to Bremen. I don't know if at this time that towns had town musicians, and that if this was something that retired people would often do, is become a town musician. So I'm just wondering if this is just something that they're coming up with kind of wildly, or if it's an actual thing. Okay, and then there's the odd scene at the robber's house. The animals somehow immediately know that the human beings inside of this house are robbers. When they look in there, they're like, oh, they're robbers. And they know that it is morally right to run them off and to take their property. They feel like since they're robbers, then it would be fine to scare them away and take what, you know, what the robbers have in there. It's a feast on the table. So, in order to frighten the robbers, they stack one on top of the other and begin to, it says, they begin to perform their music. And the meaning is implied that they make a horrible noise that frightens the robbers, and they intentionally do this, and they know that the noise or music is going to frighten, not entertain, or, you know, they're not going to enjoy the music. The robbers are going to be frightened and run away. And they realize that this music will frighten them, which makes, it just seems odd that they're going to be musicians. They're going to perform this music, and yet they use the same performance to scare away robbers. Then the robbers flee. The animals enjoy the robbers' food that they had abandoned in fear, as the animals had planned. So this is forethought, premeditation of using their musical skills to terrify someone out of their dinner. Then, seemingly by accident, they place themselves in serendipitous places all about the farm. It says each according to their own nature, like the cock up in the cock loft and the donkey down in the dung heap, and, you know, this, they lay where, you know, they want to. But when the robbers send one of their number back to scout, he accidentally encounters each animal in such a way that he thinks the place is haunted and abandons it. You know, he thinks he's a terrible witch scratches his face when it's the cat, and somebody stabs his leg but it's the dog biting him, etc. It then goes on to tell us that the animals settle in and they stay there from then on. And it ends strangely with the line, and the person who last related this tale is still living, as you see. Which always struck me as odd. Those little one-liners they sometimes clip on the end of fairy tales. It just, they make you think, like, gosh, where'd that come from? It's kind of out of left field. And I think this is a leftover from the oral traditions, where they include the storyteller in the tale. To make the storyteller more popular, he includes himself into the tale in some way. Many of the storytellers were getting old, and they wanted to be wanted and useful and to have a place, just like the animals in the story. So I think they would throw in a little tidbit here and there like that, so that it'd be more personalized, more relatable. So this is some of my thoughts on the Bremen Town musicians, and I really do think it's a study on aging in society and your place in society after you retire, how people have always felt about this. This has always been an issue. Always people have gotten old and weak and unable to perform the tasks that they used to perform, and now they feel as if they can't pull their weight or whatever. So I think this is something that's always been a problem, and people have always worried about it, and this addresses that on a lot of different levels. So I look forward to your discussions about the Bremen Town musicians, and I will see you in the next one. Y'all be sweet.